Hello, beautiful friends. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you all are doing amazing. It's a pretty amazing day for me. Today's my birthday, so just enjoying that alignment representing Aquarius. So I'm really excited to share this message. I've been looking forward to it all day. Just gonna kind of dive right in to what's been coming up for me. And it feels kind of specific, but I feel like it's still going to be really relatable. So I'm going to just start right with this 2 energy. Because honestly, I did not expect this. And this is what's been really shown to me recently, very, very intensely. And I'll get more into that in a second. So as you know, we have lots of 2s. Lots of 2s right now. We have 2022, which is pretty amazing. It's kind of a rare thing. We're not going to have something like numerologically something quite like this for hundreds of years. So that's pretty amazing. And not only that, but it's the second month of the year, and we kind of have this, February 2nd, February 22nd, these 2 portals, just so many 2s. And again, there's a reason I'm saying this, whether you're really into like the numerology or not, they do have meanings and they do have codes, and that's really what was shown to me. So I just want to speak on this 2 energy because, and even with 2, even the 11 energy, because 11, 1 plus 1 is 2, can also be tied into this as well. And a lot of people talk about the number 11 a lot. And even if you're not really a numerology person, it doesn't matter, because I just think this message is just so relevant, for many of us, because it has to do with the energy around 2. And this is, again, just what's coming up for me personally, what I'm just experiencing and sharing in hopes that it helps. 2 is really, I think, 2 is obviously, every number has its power. Every number can be used for like negative or positive. And that's really what 2 is that duality. A lot of times it's a very dualistic number. A lot of times it's very polarized, positive, negative. Our mind works a lot of times like in 2s, we tend to see things black or white, and that tends to be how things even play out in this 3rd dimension. We're able to see beyond duality as we evolve, and we are multidimensional, so we don't have to be constrained to this duality. However, we are living in a dualistic reality. So it's just by nature, it's just a part of our experience. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. And to say it is a bad thing would be very dualistic indeed. So I just want to talk about the energy that's been coming up for me, because it's truly incredible. I wasn't really expecting it. And it was just before the actual February 2nd, about a week ago now. Man, everything went haywire in my life. It was crazy. It was all more, it wasn't major things, but it was like a huge, I'll just leave it at this, it was a huge initiation from me of, again, letting go of control and just trusting the higher plan. It was like this really chaotic period of time where it seemed like every single plan, small or big, was just like not backfiring, but just falling through. And again, I was really just having to go with the flow, and kind of surrender my ego, as we've talked about a lot on this channel. And everything always worked out, and it was always, I always see it as a blessing in disguise, because, for me, the soul growth is more important than whatever's going on externally anyways, from a higher level. Even though I'm not going to say it was necessarily easy, because some of these things were pretty challenging. And even, for example, one of the things that happened is, my car broke down randomly before going on a trip. And there was a snowstorm. It's just all crazy. But, what came of that, it all worked out, and I was able to see, an old friend, mechanic of mine I haven't seen in probably a year now, so that was cool. So again, everything seems to have its own divine way. Everything ended up working out. I need not go on about that. I think we all know that. But the point I was making is it was just such chaotic energy. And the reason I'm talking about twos is because what's being revealed to me is this is a great opportunity. Opportunity, I didn't even intend that. To have a new mastery on this two energy. I've never put so much thought into the number two as I have this past week, because we really are in this 222 portal. And I think having more mastery over what the two energy represents is so empowering, especially as creator beings. Because a big part of what it represents to me is choice. As I said before, we're in this dualistic reality where we almost can't even help, that's just how we perceive things, is just in this black or white mentality. And one of the best examples to use that I'm going to just be using now going forward in this video would be, choosing fear or love, opposites. That's that two energy. And a quick side note, again, it's actually, there's nothing right or wrong about this, about duality. It just is what it is. If you think about it in terms of electricity, the positive charge and the negative charge creates electricity. I see, that correspondence in our reality as well, the negative and the positive. We always want to cling to our positive experiences, but the negative ones are just as important, for us, for our growth. And again, being multidimensional, we are just naturally going to experience those waves of positive and negative. And the less you cling to the positive, the less you cling to what your ego, the more adolescent part of the mind wants, the more you just flow through, because the negative is actually serving you. Again, from a higher level, that the negative things that happen, again, are actually serving you for your growth, which is why you're really here. And of course, the more you do evolve and the more you heal, the less, the negative things really have to be so bad. But that's another topic for another time. I just really want to get into this two energy. So going back to the example of like fear and love, the example that really, really came up for me would be ego. Again, ego, fear, victim mentality, and the higher self. Love, trust, faith, flow. And, again, in that dual perspective, that two energy, we're constantly kind of going back and forth right now. That's just part of our evolution. And going back to what I really want to speak on concerning the two energy, because I think this is going to help, a lot of people are probably feeling this, is it's really a key word is choice. Choosing. You get to choose. Again, this two energy can be really, 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 really chaotic. And it's not just about two. It doesn't just apply to February. It doesn't just apply to 2022. This is just, for me, these are many teachings about duality, about living in a dualistic reality. Again, that we're going to be just a part of. We don't have to be confined completely in duality, but it's always going to be a part of our experience. And again, there's nothing right or wrong about that. It's that dual perspective that wants to label it right or wrong. It just is what it is. And again, from a higher perspective, we see that it's just as it should be. It's just like the operating system for us to experience and learn and grow from. So the key word is choice. As we are sovereign beings, and as we are evolving, as we are growing, as we are coming home, as we are ascending, the more you do this, the more you're going to see that you have choice. And this is where things can get a little even more deep. This is something that really builds off of something I've been talking about for a while. In choosing, in each moment, you actually, if you're awake, truly, you have the choice. Am I going to choose ego? Am I going to choose fear? Am I going to choose victim mentality? Or am I going to choose, love? Am I going to choose faith? Am I going to choose the higher plan? Am I going to just, surrender? And that goes right into something that I recently experienced. So I talk a lot about surrendering. And obviously what I mean by that is surrendering the ego to the higher self. Because the higher self has such a greater picture of things. Again, the ego doesn't necessarily always understand why negative things happen. But when, from our own lived wisdom, we know that when we look back, there's always a reason. And the less we resist it and the more we flow with it, the easier it will unfold for us. And this is another interesting thing, and this is directly related, but it's kind of also on another note, is so when I say surrender to the higher self, it means, again, surrendering that ego, surrendering control. But this is the key too, is you're surrendering that illusion of control that the ego thinks it has, that wants to force things to go a certain way and wants to kind of throw a temper tantrum and freak out and be really like reactive and like knee-jerky. And no judgment, we all do this. We literally all do this. We're here on earth. This is part of the experience, So it's surrendering that ego, and that's really that pain. Surrendering that and letting that go so that you can access the higher self, and the higher self already knows. It's so hard to put this in words, because what I'm really trying to say here, though, with that said, is the higher self isn't just this abstract concept, though. The higher self is you. The higher self is you. It's not just some foreign thing. The higher self obviously is greater than we can usually comprehend with our mind. But we are the higher self. So it's not just about surrendering control, really. It is about surrendering control as we know it. But that's actually how you get control back. I hope that makes sense. And again, that's this two energy. It's this paradoxical kind of energy of it is, but it isn't. No, it is and it isn't, I should say. We are our ego and we are our higher self. And these things can cooperate and work in harmony. Two energy is very tricky, because it's kind of, it's almost like, this is just kind of coming to me now, it's kind of almost the crossroads between, the one and the Trinity is the two. It's like a mirror. It's like the twos can be very like, just like so tricky, so confusing, so muddy. That's kind of why I want to speak on it, though, because I think what happens is with this duality, it's so strong and it's so confusing that, I think we can get overwhelmed, really easily with it. But we need not, that's why we can learn to master this two energy with our choice. So going back to what I was saying, choosing the higher self, it is you. So you're surrendering control of the ego, but you're actually gaining control on the higher self. And that's flow. That's flow state. That's trusting the higher picture. That's kind of really being compassionate with yourself, and not beating yourself up because something didn't go how it was supposed to or how you expected it to. I really hope this makes sense, because again, it's that two energy, because it's that split in our consciousness that we all have between, again, the ego consciousness and the higher self-consciousness, which in this dualistic viewpoint does seem to be very, kind of like polar opposite, in how it operates. It's so multidimensional. It's so fascinating. It's so truly amazing. You know what I mean? Because that's really the word, that's the key for me that comes up all the time too, is multidimensional. It's quantum. It is, but it isn't. It's like the higher self and the ego it's very dualistic. It's very opposite. But then again, from a higher perspective, from a higher dimension, it's all working as it should. It's all connected. And that's really the key too, is to be able to flow and to work in harmony. Again, like a wave between the positive and the negative. That's just how it is. The less you cling to it, the easier it works out, and the more you love yourself truly, and that's the higher self right there in a nutshell, is just unconditional love. the more you're not going to, again, have like this conditional love. Well, I love myself when things work out, or when I'm happy, I love myself. You know, love yourself when you're sad. Love yourself when you're pissed off. Love yourself all, you know what I mean? Because that's how we continue to actually create, I feel, this space for us to evolve, is having this compassion for ourselves so we can have that compassion for others as well. Another thing that's really been coming up as well concerning all of this. So a lot of times we talk about being unattached to the external world. Something that has come so clearly to me, and I'm so grateful for this, because I realized I've been doing this a lot, and a lot of people probably have. So there's actually a really important difference between being detached and just being disassociated. So I find, right now that I'm one of my lessons as I go throughout my day is to be very associated, because I tend to disassociate, used to just kind of disassociate from this reality. Whereas, again, going back to that saying, you're in this world but not of it. And again, it's that two energy. It's just coming out, so much right now. And it makes sense. It's obviously not a coincidence. To be associated, you know what I mean? And that has to do, again, with being the observer. Instead of just kind of like disassociating, like just detracting from this reality, which is kind of a coping mechanism that, some of us have to deal with trauma or to deal with the craziness of life. But I just think it's important to ponder upon that there is a big difference between just disassociating and not wanting to look at this reality anymore, and between detaching from it, where you're still in it, you're still associated, you're still observing it with eyes wide open, but you're not attaching to it. There's very, very kind of like middle path there that I've found. It's very, very helpful. So I hope this is helpful, and that's something I invite you guys for yourself to ponder on. And I really felt called to share this message, surely again, for some reason. So maybe many of us, if, not all of us, are going to be experiencing this really like two energy, this really split energy, this really mirror-like energy. And also an analogy I wanted to share as well is, so this actually happened to me back last summer during Lionsgate. I had this like vision as I was kind of falling asleep, and it really stuck with me. And it really demonstrates this split, this duality, this polarity, this two energy, and being able to see it from the higher perspective, where it really is still all one. I guess that's an interesting point too, that many people have observed, is that these two energies, these opposite energies, are actually one. So I remember as I was kind of drifting off to sleep that night, that was a really powerful time for me, and it was really healing. And I was kind of just having this vision of myself, like more like, my human aspect of myself, just kind of like embracing my higher self and being comforted, and just feeling really, really like safe and comforted by my higher self. And slowly it started to kind of, in this kind of vision experience I was having, it slowly started to like merge. And then it seemed that then I was actually the higher self comforting myself, comforting like my human aspect. I was actually the one doing like the parenting, or like the nurturing of my human aspect from my higher self's perspective. So I thought that was kind of interesting and kind of trippy, and just shows that, it's like we are both. It's like we are both. You are, again, that human aspect, that ego aspect, that like almost inner child aspect that needs that love and that, affirmation. But then you're also able to tap into that higher self part of you that is the reassurance, that is the nurturing, that does have the bigger picture. And that is really my biggest point in this two energy of how it can be so fascinating, especially, demonstrating that split that we have in our consciousness. I've talked about this before, we all have many fragmented splits of consciousness, but that's by and large the main two ones is the, the more kind of like ego self, personality that we've developed in this life. And then the higher self that is like eternal, it's like primordial, it has a bigger picture, it lives outside of time, it doesn't worry. It's like we have this human self, like, oh God, is this going to work out? I don't know if I can do this. And then it's like there's that higher self that's like, this is the higher self that knows that this human experience is literally a blip, like in eternity. It's not the end all be all. It has the bigger picture. And again, but the higher self is not some abstract concept. It's you. It's literally you, too. It's literally you as well. You have access to both. That's what's so amazing about this evolution. It actually gives me goosebumps because it's just so incredible. It's so profound to be able to see this split, because it's not abstract. It's like this is something we all are actually experiencing. And again, through meditation, through finding ways to relax, that's how you can really start to get to know your higher self. And if you start talking directly to your higher self, it's very clear. It's very, very clear when you're channeling something egotistical in your thoughts and when you're channeling something from the higher self in your thoughts. It's very, very clear. So the last thing I'll say on this note, again, I hope this is clear. Please feel free to comment anything that, comes up for you guys, because it is fascinating. And I have to say, again, the opportunities here is amazing to kind of step into more mastery with like this two energy, with this duality energy, with not getting sucked into the duality, even though we are experiencing it. Again, multidimensional, you're going to experience life as good or bad. I'm not saying you should just be totally neutral for everything, because that's not the point. Obviously, there's good and evil in this world, and, I'm all about being a force of good. 100%. That's my calling. So I'm not saying that doesn't exist. It's not about being neutral. Again, this is multidimensional. It's actually about recognizing the good and the bad and being able to see it from a higher level, and how it all kind of comes together. Even universe, I believe that actually means like, one verse of a song. It's like this is all like a grand orchestra, grand symphony, I should say. But that doesn't mean we should just lay back and be neutral, because we're here to participate in the divine cosmic play. Again, it's serious, but it's not. Paradoxes everywhere. Again, it just makes me think of this two energy and stepping into who we really are as multidimensional beings, as the ascended masters and the, amazing beings around us know that, we are multidimensional. That's what we're stepping into. It's not black or white. When you constantly see things as this or that, you know what I mean? You're kind of in the matrix. It's not that it's not true. It's not that there's not good and evil. There is, but if you're not able to see that higher perspective, I think I've made my point. But really the last thing I want to say is just a reminder to be gentle with yourself, be compassionate with yourself, because if you guys are if you have or experience anything like I did, it was really crazy. I'm one to, I've learned to be very gentle with myself, because, you just have to be in these times. But I was definitely being so tested, because it was really just one thing after another. But again, it was truly an initiation. It was truly me anchoring in a lot of the lessons that I've been learning. It's like we learn these things and we have these revelations, but oftentimes until we actually live it and experience it, we're not able to actually embody the wisdom that happens through the experience, even though, again, the experience is usually not comfortable. Because we have the human aspect that's like, in my case, it's like, I just want to go to Florida. I just want to have this vacation in Florida. And then, there's like the higher self, the bigger picture that's like, sorry, but the soul lesson here is actually way more of a priority than the vacation in Florida. And I am, I did make it to Florida, so, I kind of got the best of both worlds. But if you see my point, And I knew that, the whole time, even though, again, it was painful, it wasn't comfortable. I had to really work these new muscles of trusting when it seemed like everything was going wrong, and just being able to hold that trust to the best of my ability. And again, let go of that control so that I could actually have control again. Let go of that control, the ego's false sense of control that wants to mentally control things when it actually cannot, and you'll just really exhaust yourself when you try to do that. Let go of that control, because then you actually have control again as the higher self. And it's a totally different kind of control. The higher self's control is not like the ego's control where it wants to dictate everything. The higher self's control is like, if you intend the highest timeline, you're going to be on your highest timeline, but you won't know what that's going to look like. You literally just have to flow with it and live it. And it won't always make sense, but there will come a point when it does, and that's kind of currently where I'm at in the cycle, which is what has, inspired me to share this message, because it is intense. Again, these two energies can be it just makes me think of a mirror, it's like more like a house of mirrors, like just very kind of like lots of illusions, lots of reflections, lots of choice. We get so much choice, but we can be so overwhelmed by the illusions that we forget that we have a choice. So again, that's really the key word here, is choice. When you're really in this dualistic energy, remember, you have a choice as a sovereign being. So again, I hope this all comes together. I hope that this is helpful to you. Feel free to share anything that you're going through or anything you're pondering on. It's always good to hear that. So much love to all of you. I will throw this in here too, because I definitely want to have another live meditation actually on the 22nd, most likely at 2 p.m. Eastern time, but I'll put more details on that in a future video soon. But very much looking forward to that. Very grateful, so grateful for all of you. It really is such a blessing and such an honor to be able to connect, as always, something I never want to take for granted. And I think that's everything. I think that's everything for now. All right. God bless all of you. Have an amazing day, and I will see you next time.